Hi, I'm Shannon Higgins, a core member of the Humanode project. Although I do not plan to go into too many technical elements today, in this episode of Humanode in simple terms, I would like to briefly go over Sybil Defence and our vision concerning one human equals one node and the future it can bring. So, what are Sybil attacks and what is Sybil Defence? In a nutshell, in a Sybil attack, the attacker subverts the reputation system of a network service by creating a large number of pseudonymous identities and uses them to gain a disproportionately large influence. Which means that naturally, a Sybil defense is what a system or network does to try to defend against the attack of the pseudonymous identities, clones, and spoofs that are used to try to influence, damage, or take over the system. Here's one simple real-life example. Reddit, one of the most popular social news website and forum, is driven by socially curated and promoted content by its members through voting. Reddit uses a reputation system called karma, where a user gets more karma points by receiving upvotes for submitted posts and comments. You also lose karma if your posts or comments are downvoted. The goal is to send well-regarded content to the top of the site's front page, and in general, the karma system is designed to improve the quality of the content. Different subreddits or communities based on the specific topic can impose minimum karma requirements to post or comment anything on their threads. The only problem here is that as any created account has the ability to upvote or downvote, a perpetrator can easily spawn countless accounts and upvote his own content to receive the necessary karma, breaking the very predicament of the reputational system. If we are talking about some meaningless articles and not safe for work posts in the wrong places, it is merely an annoyance. But if we are talking about public and permissionless financial systems that involve decentralized ledger technology and DAOs that are responsible for managing and safeguarding millions, if not billions of dollars worth of assets, well, the danger is more direct. And just blocking posts or topics that you're not interested in just doesn't cut it. Although the answer to this is kind of obvious, let us go over why it is so crucial to maintain Sybil resistance when dealing with DAOs and DLTs. In most public and permissionless systems, the systems can't decide upon anything without reaching a consensus. And although the consensus mechanism is different from network to network, the basic principle is quite simple. No matter what the topic is, say from deciding how cute of a bunny you want as a logo, to if a transaction is approved, or how much emissions should be issued to who and how often, the system goes where the majority of the validation power leads it. If you could just spawn endless accounts and identities, whoever is able to spawn the most identities in the shortest amount of time would have control over the system in 2 seconds flat. In traditional proof-of-work systems, like Bitcoin, the validation power is divided among the participants of the network based on the power of mining equipment they have. Spawning a million IDs is useless because IDs mean nothing. The more computational power you have, the more voice you have. In that case though, if one person manages to get 51% of all computational power, well, it's game over, because his voice will be the only one that matters. In proof-of-stake networks, hashing power, in turn, means nothing. it comes down to the amount of assets staked. Once again, no matter how many IDs you create, it is meaningless. You would have to control 51% of all the assets in the system to take over. Both of these defense mechanisms fall under the recurring cost type of Sybil Defence and are actually pretty effective. The only major issue that we have for both setups is that they're 100% capital-based, meaning in the end, a handful of people with large pools of money get to have the largest voice and reap the most rewards. One of our biggest goals at Humanode is to create a system in where the system gives out equal amounts of validation power to all peers in the system, without the necessity to stake or mine anything. We utilize the biometric data that is unique to each and every human being. One human, one node, one vote, and equal rewards for participation. So, as you might have guessed, the challenge that we face is how to set up a proper Sybil defense that prevents millions and billions of fake IDs from being created, and how to safeguard the honest participants of the network. Naturally, for the average Humanode user, the process is not that rigid, and is quite simple. But for those who wish to participate in validation and governance, the requirements are a little more advanced. I would like to note here that although we have a clear understanding of what is required, and already have the baseline defense laid out for implementation, this, in all reality, will be an arms race that requires constant research and development to upgrade that defense. And no, I'm not saying that we don't know if we can do it or not. What I am saying is that the path we will be taking, the system requirements, and the technology used will be upgraded as we go, to stay a few steps ahead of the curve. So as an example, where in the beginning we may only require scanning your face and fingerprints, and perhaps one other biometric modality. In the future, as technology advances and becomes less invasive and more affordable, the setup may be based on your brainwaves or neurosignature. Now, without going into too much technical details for this video, our solution was a battle plan that combines liveness detection certification methods with trusted devices and recurring cost mechanisms, but with upgrades that make them less centralized, more secure, and private. And to keep it as simple as possible, this basically means that we'll be combining encrypted biometric data with liveness detection, and as we progress, implement fully homomorphically encrypted search and matching operations on an encrypted database in IPFS. We will most likely also require an affordable trusted biometric device. And naturally, there will be some fees attached to the liveness detection certification, private smart contracts, and initial hardware required for validation and biometric scanning, while keeping it reasonable and affordable for someone signing up as a validator, but extremely expensive for someone who wants to spoof the system to create multiple IDs. To be clear, this will only be the first line of Sybil defense to protect the network, and as the community grows, so will this line of defense. So the big question now is, what is this all for? What is so great about creating a system in where one person can only create one node in order to participate in the Humanode network? The first part of the answer is simple. You are creating an auditable pseudonymous biometric account that proves that you are you, bringing value to the fact that you are unique and different from anybody else existing. based on this account, you are able to create a Humanode, participate in the Humanode financial platform as a validator with your identity. In other words, instead of capital, your right to participate in the network is a stake. By becoming a Humanode, you also gain the right to become an equal voice in the governance and become a co-owner of the network and its fruits, thus also giving you the rights for a fair share of profit generated by transaction fees and so on. But as I said, this is only the first part of the answer. For the second part of the answer, let me instead ask you a few questions. If you're a regular user of the internet, you may have signed up for various websites or services using your Google account or Facebook ID, allowing you to enjoy these services without having to remember 36 different passwords. At the same time, you may have been caught in a situation where you have lost your Facebook or Google password, or possibly have been hacked because someone guessed your password was password 123. This not only affects your access to Facebook or Google, but all the sites associated to the account, and the damage can be pretty damning. Well, what if you didn't need to worry about passwords because all you needed to do is prove that you are you through your biometric ID, not having to deal with remembering a multitude of passwords, nor risking them being guessed or hacked? Now, on the same topic of IDs, but from a different angle, consider the fact that in the year 2019 alone, Facebook removed 5.4 billion fake accounts, and in 2020, Facebook removed a further 5.8 billion fake accounts. Consider the fact that many of these accounts were used in various schemes, psychological warfare, and propaganda, which were further used to attack the fabric of society, sow discontent, fan the flames of hatred and racism. Some of these attacks were initiated by governments. Others were by a handful of people wanting to shape the opinion to suit their agenda or for financial gain. Some say that this even managed to affect the results of a number of national elections across the globe, including the 2016 US presidential election. So basically, a commonly used platform to keep in touch with friends and family was contaminated via use of a multitude of fake IDs, and although this is not a Sybil attack per se, you could say that Facebook lost a considerable amount of reputation, value, and possibly a future for not being able to prevent such attacks. Wouldn't you think that companies like Facebook or Google, or the next generation of social media, would benefit from utilizing such a system, even if they were required to pay a small fee to utilize it? I mean, they'd be saving millions, if not billions of dollars. Now, once again, what if you, who have become a registered Humanode, were also able to earn money for maintaining your identity and also make direct payments using your pseudonymous biometric account? Now, let me ask you one more question. How many here would rather have a co-ownership and equal voice concerning this network, gaining a voice and control over how your identity is used and protected, compared to, say, having that system be owned by a mega tech giant, who in turn is owned by a few billionaires? But in all reality, the core reason we need to have one person equal one node equal one vote is based on the fact that telecommunication and technological evolution has reached a stage where we, as a human race, are dependent on it. More importantly, access to the wealth of knowledge and advancement that it brings to society as a whole is quickly becoming an essential human right. With that in mind, as Humanode, we firmly believe that every living person needs to be able to have an equal opportunity, an equal voice in this enterprise, and while being rewarding for those who actively participate in enhancing this system, also be a fair and rewarding system that is co-owned by all of its participants, eventually growing to the stage in where every single living human being will be able to participate. And yes, such a system needs to have proper defense, and it needs to protect everybody involved. I hope I was able to share some insights on why Sybil Defence is so essential and what we are trying to do to protect the network, along with give you a little glimpse of what we believe the Humanode network can become. Once again, I would like to invite all of you to become part of the Humanode network, participate in the vortex, and become equal partners and owners in this endeavor. Hope to see you again in our next episode. Ta-ta for now.